Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jennifer Reed, and I'm the director of Bridgewater State University Senior College. For those of you that are new to Senior College, we are a lifelong learning program, and we offer courses that are non-credit for enrichment purposes here physically in the town of Bridgewater. We also have in-person classes in Plymouth at the Center for Active Living, in Easton at their community center, and sometimes in Attleboro, although this semester we don't have classes in Attleboro, but we'll probably be back in Attleboro in the spring. And we also offer lots of courses just like this over Zoom. So we hope that we can offer courses that meet the needs of everyone, and we can have members join us from our region here in southeastern Massachusetts, but also well beyond. Last semester, we had about 7 members from other states. So we're growing by the day and by the semester. We have a couple of what we call faculty showcase sessions coming up in the next few weeks, and you can find more information about those on our website. And so that's an opportunity for you to meet our faculty members on Zoom, and you'll hear a bit more about what you can expect to learn in their classes and a little bit about them and who they are and their background. So that's always a great thing to do, to either attend yourself. Even if you've already joined Senior College, it's a great way to know what courses you want to pick. I would also say we're having kind of an unprecedented registration period where people are signing up in record numbers, and they're signing up fast. So I would encourage you to spread the word. If you're not already signed up, please do. We do have a few classes that had enrollment caps, and they filled up like super quick. So if you have the chance to sign up really quick, we actually had a drawing class that filled up in like an hour, and we added a second section of it because of that high demand. So if you have any questions about that in particular, please do let me know. I would appreciate that. I just want to make a note, if you could stay on mute today, that would be really helpful because we are recording this for YouTube. It helps with not having any distracting background noise. And then we have a lot of other free events coming up. We have a couple of in-person events. One is a visit to our campus greenhouse, and I do believe that might be full. So let me know if you've signed up and you can't attend. And we have a visit coming up to the Bridgewater State University Archive, where we have a special collection related to the Historical Women's Baseball League. And so lots of great artifacts in that collection that are unusual and really unique to our campus. So I hope to see you at those events coming up. And again, you can check that all out on our website, and you can sign up on our website. If you have a chance and you're just logged in, put in the chat who you are, where you're from, and something great that you're doing this summer. Okay, that was a lot of chit-chatting, but now we're here for this important event. So my colleague, Brendan Harvey, is with us today. Brendan and I are kind of nerdy tech people, or I aspire to be more tech maybe than I am. And we have lots of conversations about artificial intelligence. I use it quite a bit lately in my own professional practice. And so I'm always, picking his brain about how I use it. I also use it a little bit in my scholarly work. And so we have these great conversations. So I thought, why not bring Brendan to Senior College and have him give us his kind of state of the union on artificial intelligence. So Brendan, welcome. We're so glad to have you here, and I will turn the floor over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thanks everyone for joining for this presentation, Unlocking the Potential, Demystifying Artificial Intelligence in Everyday Life. As Jen said, my name is Brendan Harvey. I'm the Assistant Director in the Office of Online Program Support at the College of Continuing Studies at Bridgewater State University. And I'm really looking forward to getting into this and speaking with you all about it. Before we begin, just a little bit of preamble. To start, I wanted to again thank Jen for arranging this opportunity to share this information about this emerging technology with this fantastic community. And then thank you, the community, for showing up, for joining and participating. Hopefully I can provide some insight and information that will strengthen your knowledge of AI and possibly, demystify and put some fears to rest while we're doing it. And then lastly, I have to thank Lee Forrest, the instructional designer at Bridgewater State University's Teaching and Technology Center. They've collaborated with me for basically every AI-related presentation I've given this last year, and their knowledge and wisdom is invaluable. So shout out to Lee. So the real preamble, I just love saying this up front. I am not an expert when it comes to this stuff. I'm not a computer scientist. My fundamental understanding of this technology is really exploratory and high level in nature. I like to think of it as more of an exploratory mission. We set off looking into these programs in early January, when there was that big boom of buzz about Chat GPT and artificial intelligence in general. And we are working to make sure that our faculty and our students are prepared to not only use the technologies as they emerge, but also that they are able to just prepare whatever they need to in order to move forward in the future that is coming for us. With that, I personally think these AI technologies are incredibly exciting and just a little bit scary. And I'm very much a know thy enemy kind of person. So I like to, research things, understand how they work, and hopefully by the end of this presentation and after our conversation, you will feel a little bit more empowered to interact with these technologies as they come out. So general game plan is I'm going to spend roughly 30 minutes providing ground level information to help us establish that foundation of knowledge, which then we can stimulate the conversation that will be the latter half of our time here today. So not only is this a new technology, but it's a rapidly evolving technology. So I like to get out of the way that while we're discussing certain systems and parameters today, they could be entirely different next week. They're almost certainly going to be entirely different next year. And some of the items that I'm presenting to you might be entirely irrelevant by then. Who knows? Because as we saw just over the course of this year, the Chat GPT 3 that we were all abuzz about in January was dwarfed by a new version of it that came out not 5 months later. But the last thing I want to talk about is we have a bit of a preamble that we're trying to provide. When possible, just letting you know that portions of this presentation were generated using AI systems, including ChatGPT and DALL-E. I understand and acknowledge that these programs create content which can hold biases or include factual errors. And with that knowledge, any information generated has been fact-checked by me, the presenter, to the best of my ability to ensure legitimacy prior to the presentation. And I also acknowledge the AI systems are trained on information provided unwillingly by internet users, authors, and artists with no attempt for compensation or credit. That's just something that is going to kind of be a theme as we go through this and as time goes forward. So with that out of the way, let's start at the beginning, and we are going to define AI. So AI, as we may know, stands for artificial intelligence. And that basically means an intelligence, either perceiving, synthesizing, or inferring information, which can be demonstrated by a machine, right? This is not very new. Machines have been very intelligent for quite some time now. This term was actually coined, I believe, in the 1950s, but as time goes forward, especially recently, they are getting substantially better at it. So it's important that we kind of talk about this stuff now. All AI systems and programs that are in place right now are algorithmic in nature. They're still just programs written by a human, much like the calculator program on your phone was once written by a human. At a high level, those programs are still trained and validated by people, and they need human interaction to function and exist. So that's just something I like to bring up. There is the concept of closed AI versus open AI, which is worth mentioning. Closed AI is what we are currently using in everyday life. These are AI systems that are designed to perform one specific task. So this could be the speech recognition in Siri or Alexa or any automated assistant, autofill and autocorrect on your web browser, your phone, your word processor, search algorithms, self-driving cars, and generative AI. Those are all closed AI. They are designed to do one thing only, and they get as good as they can. And then there is this not looming, but a future concept, theory really, of open AI, science fiction at best at the moment, which is basically an AI that is able to perform and learn multiple tasks without the input of another individual, or basically another human, or a single human. And these are kind of broken down into artificial general intelligence, AGI, which would be one of those programs that is able to accomplish multiple tasks at the level of a human mind. And then further off from that is an artificial superintelligence, which would be able to do those things better than the human mind. I really like saying loud and out front, those don't exist right now. There's speculation on when they will exist, in the range of decades from now to never, either due to the inability or due to everybody getting together and agreeing it's not a good idea to make them. So you can keep that in mind. Going back, just because I like pointing it out now, because you're going to see a couple of them as we go. When we talk about a closed AI system like DALL-E, which is a generative AI, the image on the right that you see was created using the DALL-E image generation system, which is basically a text field prompt where I wrote a detailed photorealistic close-up of a human eye filled with complex fractals in the iris. It thought about it for a minute, and then it spat out this and a few other images. I like this one the best, so I picked it. It's a really neat program that has a lot of versatility and functionality. And you'll see a couple of these images throughout. But when we talk about generative AI systems, this is kind of like a perfect example of that. Speaking of generative AI, this is kind of what has been in the news headlines for some time. It kind of has a lot of buzz around it and has caused some, some worry here and there. The one that normally gets in first people's minds is Chat GPT, which is a system that is able to simulate human conversation. And then there's also image generators like DALL-E that I've shown, creating new arts in a matter of seconds. But again, these are all still algorithmic programs by design. The programming process changes, but at its heart, it's still just a computer program written by someone and then, developed as time goes forward. To break that down a little bit more, when we think of a standard computer function program, you can break it down into essentially 3 steps. There's the training of that program. For old cases, the calculator application on your computer or phone. Somebody sat down at a computer or whatever, if you go far enough back, on paper, and they wrote out the code. They programmed that system. They gave it a series of known information for its inputs, such as 2 + 2, and then it provided, they provided the validated answers. So the correct answer is 4. They also went through and ensured that it was providing those validated answers every time. So if you put in 2 + 2 20 times, you want to make sure you got 4 every single time. If you got 8 one time, something went wrong, you need to go back into your code and fix it. That was the basis of computer programming from now until now. I mean, from the beginning until now, really. The input information, the known information, is limited to whatever the people programming that program provide. So they could do 0 through 10, and the computer program would not be able to understand what is 15 + 15, what is 20 + 20. That's the limitations of the program. That is slightly different when we come to a AI system, such as a generative AI system, which is what we would talk about next. So at its heart, that system still exists. You have inputs, you have training, you have inputs, and you have outputs, right? For the input system, we have the program is provided its parameters by a human or a group of humans. So in the case of Chat GPT, they said, we're trying to create a chatbot that recognizes speech patterns and simulates human information. They then provide it with a massive amount of information in the form of data sets. So off the top of my head, GPT was trained on portions of the internet, Wikipedia, about 500 million books, and some other more secretive stuff that they don't really tell us about. But basically, it took all of this text information and it started to learn patterns, which is the next step. They do this via machine learning and neural networks. Machine learning at the most high level is essentially a program designed to do trial and error until it finds the right result. So you may have seen, if anyone had watched that 60 Minutes article or that 60 Minutes show about AI, they had the little robots who learned how to play soccer. And they first start not knowing how to do anything. They just know they need to get the ball into the goal. And then through the process of running millions and millions of trial and errors, they learn that they need to walk towards the ball, they need to kick the ball, they need to get past the other robot, they need to form strategies, and it's all built from the ground up. Essentially take a human life and compress it into seconds, and that's essentially what machine learning is. They do that through those millions of calculations through neural networks, which is a fancy way of saying a lot of computers all at once. Basically, you have a system of options, parameters in the neural network, and it basically, if this is yes, you go here. If it's no, you go here, and it bounces through until it gets to the end result. So that is your input followed by the output. For the case of Chat GPT or other generative AIs, they have been using their machine learning to find patterns in their data sets. So all of that bulk information they got, they are taking that time to understand what comes after what, why things are said before the other, and then they start making predictions. This is, again, just trial and error. They say, you know, peanut butter and jelly, duck, duck, goose, all of these items. And then their predictions are validated by a group of humans. So again, there's humans at the beginning, the inception of the program, and there are humans validating the end result. And that's still happening today with ChatGPT and the other programs like it. So once it has learned its task, it is set out to perform its task. Kind of when ChatGPT went out to the public in early or in November, and then got all the buzz in January. Basically, it is still being trained just by human interaction. So every time someone signs on and plays with ChatGPT, their results are helping it understand, oh, they liked it when I said this, they didn't want that, et cetera, and it's still going through that prediction learning pattern process as time goes forward. So that is generative AI in a nutshell, elevator pitch for generative AI. When we get to GPT, which is the AI system that was created by Open Labs in 2017. Open Labs was a company that was founded trying to pioneer the development of safe and ethical AI systems. That was a little bit before they got a $10 billion paycheck from Microsoft and is suddenly a for-profit partner of Microsoft. But GPT, created by OpenAI Labs, is a large language model, which is basically what we said before. It has all of this text information, this data, and it is learning how to recreate human conversation, simulate human conversation based off that data. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, and it's, like I said, just trained on the large corpus of text data to generate human-like text. It's an auto-regressive language model. So it's predicting the probability of the next word in the sequence, given the previous words in the sequence: peanut butter and jelly, duck, duck, goose, macaroni and cheese, etc. In so many ways, it's autocomplete on steroids. It's just a high-functioning system of guessing what the next proper word is. The current GPT system, GPT-4, has over 170 billion parameters. So in that neural network, there are that many options living inside the program to decide what the next proper word is. And that is roughly a terabyte of text. I'm not sure how many people have a terabyte of text lying around. My entire computer hard drive is a terabyte, and it's not full right now. So it's just kind of wild. For example, if you can't see the dot, but next to that purple circle, there is a tiny red circle for, arbitrary size, but essentially the Gettysburg Address in its entirety is 1.5 kilobytes of text. So ChatGPT is trained on roughly 100,000 of the length of text used for Gettysburg Address. Something that is worth noting, more for future sake than for what is going to affect us right now, but GPT-4 is also multimodal, which means that it can understand both text and images. So while you can type into a GPT-4 based program, write me a song about a tree, it can do that. Now you can provide it with an image and ask it a simple question like, what would happen if the strings were cut in this image? It's recognizing the strings, it's recognizing that they're tied down, it's recognizing the balloons. So it answers without any other prompts, the balloons would fly away. It knows from the image what is about to happen. Similarly, and much more impressively, I think, you could give it a sketch of a website like this image on the right, which is just a general idea of a website. And then using that image, GPT would be able to create the layout of the image and make the code behind the layout function so you can actually use the website based entirely on just a quick sketch you wrote out. Another use case for this would be you could show it the contents of your refrigerator and say, what can I make for dinner? And it can provide you with a recipe idea based on what it sees in the image you shared with it. Again, this is currently in the space of being experimental in nature. It is not available, to my knowledge, to the public as of yet. I think there's going to be a lot more trial and error with this before it ever sees the light of day. But it's just incredible that we're already getting to this point when a year ago, it was just really getting the grips on having a normal conversation, right? Speaking of which, now we are finally at Chat GPT. So we're building and building and building, right? Again, this was authored by OpenAI Labs, who are responsible for the generative pre-trained former that it was trained on, along with DALL-E, the image generation program that made this cute octopus on the skyscraper. It was launched in November of 2022. Right around January, it surpassed 100 million users. It currently has roughly 60 million unique daily visitors. And it was currently the fastest growing consumer application of its time period. So what is ChatGPT when you get down to it? It's a chatbot. It's a chatbot that's using GPT-4 to simulate the human conversation, interpreting prompts provided to it and responding with conversational dialogue and information. So unlike a search engine where you can say, how do I make pad thai? And you can get a website link for a pad thai recipe. This would just make it more conversational. Oh, you're interested in pad thai? Well, here's some that I like, and would kind of recreate that human element in the conversation. It can respond to questions, challenges. You can prompt it that you want to have an argument and set the basis, the parameters for your argument, and then it will give you in context responses to the conversation as it builds. And it's still learning, but when I say that it's learning, I'm just saying it's learning to be a better chatbot. It's not learning any new information. It's not, to my knowledge, and this has a huge asterisk on it, to my knowledge, it's not retaining any user information and storing it for any purpose outside of training it to improve its conversational skills. I really hope it doesn't have a dossier on every single person that ever talked to it, but who knows? So what's ChatGPT good at? Generation, as I said, text-based items is really its bread and butter. You can have it create fiction, nonfiction, poetry, music, scenarios. It could pretend to be someone else. It could pretend to be you. You can provide it with chunks of data, an essay that you wrote, and have it recreate a new essay on a new topic in your voice, quote unquote. It could throw those things out. It's also able to create charts or graph data, although that data will sometimes have errors. And it's important to know that it regularly can have those errors. So it's important to make sure you're not taking everything at its word. Everything should be fact checked that comes out of one of these programs. Tables, lists, outlines. I really like its ability to reformulate information. So you could say, explain quantum physics, and it could provide you with something and say, explain it like you're talking to a 5-year-old, and it will recreate that paragraph it just said about quantum physics, but simplify the words, simplify the concepts, and make it so that a 5-year-old would be able to understand it. That works in the same way for rewriting the voice of, or just changing reading comprehensions. You can say, this is a great thing for students at Bridgewater State. You know, if a junior in a college course is having trouble, they can say, can you rewrite this for someone of senior level in high school, and they could simplify some things. It's also great at defining words, explaining concepts, elaborating on historical events. But again, everything needs to be fact checked just in case, which is, you should be doing with anything, really. And then what's ChatGPT bad at? Current information. It's not very good at. Basically, it was trained on data sets that ended in late 2021, September. My favorite example of this is that it doesn't know that the Queen of England is dead. It basically just has a set end to its knowledge base. It doesn't have access to the internet in this iteration, and it will basically only be able to provide answers from that time back. It can't comment on current events or anything like that. It's not great at citing sources. Since it's proprietary, it doesn't like revealing the origins of its information. And then if you kind of force it to create sources, it'll just make them up. So it's always important to, again, fact check. That's kind of becoming a theme, right? It's not good at opinions. You can't ask what's your favorite ice cream. I wouldn't tell you. It would just say, well, I can't have a favorite ice cream since I am just a program, but here's a list of popular ice cream flavors. And then again, with the concept of misinformation, it's important to always remember that GPT and large language models like it in their current iteration are always auto-filling over fact checking. So they are not necessarily looking to give you the right information. They're just trying to provide what sounds the best given the words that happened previously. This will this will regularly generate false information if it sounds good enough. This has been coined by the different development companies as hallucinating, which is just a cute word for being wrong. And then again, as I mentioned kind of in the preamble, there are large issues with equity. We actually gave a conversation, Lee Forrest and I, at the Mass Colleges Online this year, based exclusively on equity issues based in generative AI development. Biases are rampant since it was trained on certain data sets that mostly focus on cis white males. The information that is being generated tends to lean in the favor of the point of view of a cis white male. There's also the issue where they are now charging, I think the premium subscription is $20 a month, gets you to the HOV lane for better learning. I like to say, imagine if there was a better version of the internet that had better and more factual information in it, and like the discrepancy that would cause. This is kind of what's emerging with generative AI programs, where since they're putting price tags on the faster, better, more reputable information, they are now creating a barrier between everyone learning and basically having two sides of a wall. And then digital colonialism, again, this was mentioned in the preamble, but all of these programs have been designed and built on information that was unwillingly provided by large groups of users. Anyone who used the internet has a chance that some of their information was, some of their text was used in training ChatGPT. Artists and musicians have had their content interpreted by different AI models. They basically are exploiting free labor of others for profit. If it was uploaded to the internet, they're calling it fair game, which isn't always the case. And then I don't want to get too deep into this, although I could talk about any one of these for the entirety of this program. And if you have any questions about them, I'm happy to address them. But there are many other generative AI programs out there at the moment. There are other large language models in competition with Chat GPT, such as Google has Bard, powered by Lambda, which is the language model for dialogue applications. And then Facebook, Meta has created Llama, which is the large language model Meta AI, which isn't the best name, but the best acronym. They are all kind of trying to find some space to carve out for themselves, because this is going to be such an important business opportunity as time goes forward. There are more image generators seemingly every day. Dolly, Midjourney, Adobe Firefly are some of the more prominent ones. But if you do a search for AI image generator, you will get a list of hundreds, if not thousands at this point. Video generators are really intriguing to me. I have a media background, so but they have programs such as Pictory, which can take raw video and essentially edit it for you. It can cut things out. It can remove ums and ahs. It's really intriguing information or program. And then other companies such as Synthesis and Synthesia can take a text-based script that you create, and they can fabricate an avatar that looks like a person and have that person's mouth move to say the words in the script without providing any actual human or any actual voice. They're essentially generated by AI. And that brings us to the audio generators, such as Adobe, 11 Labs, Apple's, where you can have relatively small chunks of voice information. So if I recorded my voice for a minute and fed this into a program, it can recreate the cadence and tone of my voice. And I could then write any text I want and have it recreated in my own voice. But that can also happen for sitting presidents or people who never said they wanted you to upload their voice. But I'm trying not to get on that soapbox. I feel pretty strongly about it, so I kind of slip every now and then. But those are all very intriguing elements as well. And then lastly, I just want to touch on ways that we can use AI today. I like to say Chat GPT is out there, go and try it. It's a sign up and you get the free version, which is running off 3.5, which is a reputable version of Chat GPT. The best way to demystify these programs is to just go interact with them. One, so you can be impressed by what they can do, but then also you can kind of see the faults and see, oh, it has limitations. Oh, this isn't HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, we're okay for a bit. It really kind of helps meet those expectations, while you can be impressed too, and it can help you on daily tasks in ways that I can't count the number of times where I have something I need to do either for work or for my home life, and I just think I could just have ChatGPT do this, and then I do sometimes, and it's really useful. And then as time goes forward, like I said, there are AI programs that are being used regularly throughout our lives, and those are just going to get more prominent. AI assistant programs, search engines are starting to build in, like Microsoft Bing has a GPT counterpart where, like I mentioned, you could ask it for a pad Thai restaurant in your area, and it will start having a conversation with you to, determine where you should go. Google is introducing Bard to kind of find that market share, basically the same functionality. And then this extends to chat bots. If you go on any company website, it seems nowadays, whether it be your insurance company or your home internet provider, there's always that little chat box that pops up. Hi, I'm the text-based assistant. How can I help you? And you can have a conversation with that to kind of try to accomplish something before you type human 20 times to get a real person on the line. But those are always, those are just going to improve with time to the point where you're not really going to realize that you're not talking to a person right off the bat. And phone assistant programs are also getting better and better. I'm old enough to remember when it was really odd when a robot started answering the phone for you. But nowadays, every once in a while, I'm getting tricked. And I'm like, it takes a couple sentences before I realize that it's actually an automated machine I'm talking to and not an actual person. And then I do like to mention, although I do not have a lot of experience or expertise in this area, but there have been some really impressive and interesting news articles coming out about health monitoring. AI programs are being used to monitor patient vitals, sometimes point out underlying issues or important details that a doctor may have missed, or a physician may have missed. And as that develops, I think that's going to be a great boon for everybody. So that, in however much time that was, is the basis of our foundation. And I think we have about 20 minutes left. It looks like a little bit more than 20 minutes left. I'd love to have some conversation. If anyone has any questions, if anything is, you can feel free to raise your hand or throw your question in the chat, and we can go from there.
Thank you so much, Brendan. I'll just offer, I've been playing around with this, as I mentioned at the top. I use Chat GPT to write poems about my golden retriever, Sadie Lou. She's 9 years old. She's beautiful. I put in a prompt. I put one in while you were talking that said, write me a poem about my golden retriever named Sadie Lou, who lives on Cape Cod. She's a beautiful red color. She's 9 years old. She loves to swim in the ocean and loves to eat. And it wrote me a beautiful, funny poem. So that's what I would just encourage you to do. Silly things. Have it write a poem about your son or your husband, who all he watches is, MSNBC all day long, and he drives you crazy. And you're, do fun things like that with it, because that gets you kind of like, oh, and then, I put in also, because I had never really heard the argument prompt. So I put in, please write a prompt, argue with me about the impact of lifelong learning on quality of life. And it gave me 4 points of positive impacts of lifelong learning. And then it gave me 4 potential drawbacks of lifelong learning. So you have to think about the prompts, and you can also sometimes I Google, like, what are good prompts to use in Chat GPT, and then Google tells me what kind of prompts to put in there. So that would just be my plug. But we have some questions. First one in the chat was from Kristen Howard, and then I see Kristen, if you want to unmute and ask your question, you're welcome to do that, and then we'll do Jan.
Yeah, sure. So actually I had a question in the chat, which was, how are academics using this to either encourage student interaction or to thwart student interaction? That was my one big question. But then I just wanted to kind of tell people I've been using it in my job search. So I have put in, for example, please create a cover letter for me, and I'll paste in the job description, and then I'll say based on my resume, and paste in my resume, and I get sometimes a way overly worded, sample cover letter. But then if I say, shrink it down to 2 paragraphs, it does. And a lot of times I don't use it word for word. In fact, you can't actually copy paste, because then it formats oddly. But it at least gives me, if I have a writer's block and I just can't come up with what I think would be a really good cover letter, that's how I've been using it. But I have to deliver a presentation, and I'm going to look to Chat GPT to help me at least get started. So it's pretty cool. So thank you for doing this. Actually, I mean, you definitely expanded my my knowledge, Brandon. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's entirely, it's really funny. Just a quick anecdote about the idea that using an AI like ChatGPT to create a cover letter or a resume, which is then being sent to whatever the job processing website is, which is then using AI to decipher which candidates are applicable for a position based on their cover letter. So it's really like there's human interaction on both sides, but it's really like a program writing a thing, so a program can look at it and validate the information for the interpreter, the human interpreters on each side, right? Getting into how faculty are reacting, it's a mixed bag. Best way to say it. Some faculty are really grabbing the bull by the horns and really actively wanting to utilize it because it is such a great tool. Other faculty are a little bit more concerned that students, focusing on the lowest common denominator, students are just going to have the robot make its essay and send it in, and they're going to expect me to not catch it, this, that, the other thing. We're promoting that, like I'm promoting here, through utilizing the programs. Everyone benefits, not only because it's going to help you in modern day understand what it's capable of and understand, oh, maybe this was written by AI, oh, maybe this wasn't, but looking a year out, 5 years out, 10 years out, this is going to be a vital part of our everyday lives. And in my opinion, if we aren't training and helping our students understand this information now, we're really kind of limiting what they're going to be able to do in the future when they get to their jobs, because by, and this is my assumption, but 10 years from now, AI is going to be integrated into every job in some capacity, and it's just a matter of, it's not an if, it's a when, right? Yeah, so it's faculty, some faculty are really gung-ho, some faculty more tentative, and we're kind of in the process of helping move the line, right? And then you did ask if the PowerPoint would be shared. Yes, I can absolutely share that with you.
Okay, cool.
I'll have to clean it up a little bit. And then I saw Jean asked if it was free, and then Jen responded, Chat GPT is free. There is a premium version that costs like $20 a month. I don't think anyone on an exploratory level needs to sign up for $20 worth. And then Jen, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, to me, this is a scary, wonderful thing. The scary part for me is from one of my favorite movies, The Terminator. And, will machines take over the world? Nah, I don't really think they will, but, it's scary that they can do so many things better than we can, but they're not human. And that's the most important part of us. And the other thing that you mentioned that I thought this is brilliant is, the health related options here. Be able to have your blood pressure taken. The VA even has some of these things where you can have a scale at your home and you stand on it. Like if you have CHF or something, and the amount of fluid you're holding in your body is very important. And so your weight is very important. You stand on that scale and boom, that goes right to the VA, and they know you gain 2 pounds in a day, which means you're holding a lot of fluid. So, these things are wonderful. And also I think that helps take away the bias that human doctors, nurses, whatever, have too in dealing with a person. They're listening to a person that's saying, gee, yeah, I'm in a lot of pain, but they're not saying, oh, you're in a lot of pain. Some people deal with their pain differently. So to really take different different things that are happening with the patient, different symptoms, and be able to say, okay, this, and this, and very quickly delineate, this could be part of so many things. And doctors will know a lot of those, but not necessarily all of them. And AI would be able to say every single one and say which ones are most likely, which ones are not. This is a 71-year-old overweight woman of Lithuanian descent, so it's more likely to be this, that, or the other thing. And women present differently with heart attacks, and which doctors do know, but there isn't that listening, interpreting thing that goes on with a doctor, and they're only human, and AI is just going to be less I don't want to say discriminatory, because they're not really discriminating. It's just where the little biases in the mind works, and AI doesn't have that. So, it can if you sort of put them in there, like you mentioned, cis white male, generating a lot of this, but the more people that get in on that, the better it's going to be. So yeah, I do generally see some wonderful things coming from this, but I do wonder, and I'm glad you kind of mentioned that there might be some people that are just going to say, we're not going to let it do certain things. I'd like you maybe to elaborate a little on that, or maybe it shouldn't do certain things, and kind of how could we ever really deal with that or prevent that. Certain things like the Terminator. I know it happened, but are there ways that we're thinking of to maybe deal with it getting what we might call out of hand?
That is a fantastic question. So in the Mass Colleges Online presentation we provided, one of the final slides I had up was a person at a crossroads, and in one direction was the Star Trek Enterprise, and in the other direction was Terminator. And it's like, we kind of have to, now's the time to talk about it, right? Because if we get to one side, it's going to be too late, Fantastic points about the interpretation when it comes to health-based things. Doctors are incredibly smart. Their experience levels are, their knowledge is just beyond, but you're citing a single human's knowledge versus the expanse of all human history encapsulated in a program, right? There's going to be those differentiations. And I think a really great point you brought up is the speed at which it happens, right? It's not I need to go research this. Oh, let's see how this, it's like, no, it's ran every test in the span of a minute and it's done a million calculations. And it's just not something a human can compete with at its heart. There are a few different avenues where it's hard. Speaking on the topic of what we can do to like prevent XYZ, you and I can't really do much. There are a lot of prominent figures in the AI building community. There have been petitions created, which I'm happy to share out once I find the links, basically saying, I remember one petition was saying that there should be a pause on AI development so they don't move too rapidly. And this is coming from companies like OpenAI, who were developing the programs rapidly. But, you know, pausing AI development to ensure that we really know what we're making at each step. And we're not, this isn't I forget the woman's name, but she was in front of a panel in Congress, but she said, this is not the age of move fast and break things. This is the age of study and assurance, because if you get too far, you can't go back, right? There was another petition that came out signed by several hundred prominent figures in technology and AI, basically saying that the global governments should be treating AI on the level of a nuclear weapon or a pandemic issue, and basically say we need to get together and we need to start talking about this now, because again, there is going to be a too late, and we want to get in front of it. I don't know how well people are like listening to petitions that were signed online, but they exist, and people are, prominent figures are considering it at the very base, which, you know, is something. it's not a great answer, but it's what we got at the moment, right? So now I do see that Evie, you have your hand up.
Yep. Yes, I'm not sure if what I'm going to describe to you is AI, but I think it is. I have a pacemaker and a defibrillator, and on the table beside my bed, which has to be 6 feet away, is a little box that if, while I'm sleeping at night, if something goes wrong with the pacemaker or the defibrillator, it picks up that message and sends it into Boston, and I get a phone call to wake me up and call 911.
That's great. Yeah, it's like these technologies are amazing, you know, and it's like I said, I'm old enough to remember when the phone was stuck on the wall, and like, you know, I watched the internet get born, you know, so living through that, this feels like another one of those dynamic shifts where these things are being automated for the better at the end of the day. And like stories like that are fantastic, you know, just the way that people are thinking to help people. It's awe-inspiring, really. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I have asked when I've seen the doctor, I said, I've never gotten a phone call, thank heavens, but he said, but it's keeping track of everything. You
Right.
don't have to worry.
Right.
It'll call you if there's something wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, as time goes forward, the more of those are kind of falling into everyday life. I'm not sure if anyone has a smart thermostat in their home. I have one, and you know, it measures the temperature in different rooms and calculates how it needs to heat the entire house to just stuff that you never thought about in the first place, you know, and it's just like, finding solutions like that, I love it. I think it's great. Let's see, we have David has his hand up next.
My question with regards to AI, you look at the current events where you have the Screenwriters Guild and you have the Actors Guild, on strike, and one of the key things that they want to negotiate on is AI. And so from a sense of creativity, the creative areas, whether writing, acting, painting, literature, if it gets to the point where could machines be doing these things, and where's the sense of individual creativity? Is it lost? Is it,
Right. Well, I think that honestly, at the heart of it, that is the argument that the Screen Actors and the Writers Guilds are making. I actually am I'm a former member. I'm in hiatus, but the IATSE Film Guild. I used to work on the films that worked around Boston, 2 decades ago. God, 2 decades ago. So that I've seen those strikes, and that's affecting a lot of my friends, their jobs, because when the writers strike, that basically shuts down anything that doesn't have a set script, that doesn't need any changes, which is a rarity. And then with the actors on strike, it's immediately affecting people. I think they are 100% correct in that they should be getting better wages and compensations, mostly for the streaming sites that they were waiting for this deal to interact. This is on an entirely different subject. I need to calm down. But as far as the individuality of the creative process, the studios at heart are saying, oh, well, we'll just have robots do it. And they're not understanding the limitations of the programs, right? They might be trying to get something around where if they have it written by a robot that then is touched up by a tech person, does that count as a writer? Yes, it does, based on the contracts and stuff. But Hollywood, not all Hollywood people are great. Sometimes they're trying to get their stuff done and make the most money out of it. As far as human creativity, individuality, art, all these things, my dream vision is that providing the functionality of AI systems for all of the working class jobs, hopefully more people would be able to explore those avenues and just not touch a computer. And then if you don't interact with the computer, you can paint, and I don't think those things are ever going to die. From a corporate standpoint, it's going to fall down to what is the cheapest labor available to them. And in some cases, they're going to say, oh, we can just have an AI make that picture, or oh, I can just have an AI write that script. I don't think for a long time it's ever going to really capture the nuances of a human being. But I certainly think they're going to try for a bit until they learn their lesson. A great question that I could talk about. That's a whole presentation on itself.
All right,
yeah.
We have 5 minutes left, so I just want to be
sure.
mindful of the time, make sure we get to Ginny and then Jean. Thank you, David.
My question is very obvious, and I'm sorry if everybody else knows except for me. How do you access Chat GPT?
Oh, sure.
Because I went on and just typed in chatgpt.com. It brought me to chatai.com. Then it's presenting me with all the stuff that I'm not too sure what to do with it.
Yep. So I believe
Thank
if you click on chat.openai.com, that should send you right there.
Okay.
You do, in a lot of cases, I believe, if you're going from a, hang on, let me pull this up and see if I'm right. If you're just searching Chat GPT off the bat, you're going to see it under OpenAI, which is the company. And then it may ask you to sign up or log in from there. But if you get to, hang on, let me share my screen so we can talk about the same thing.
I did register, and so it has my email and my name, and it recognizes me every time I come back and use it. And it just pops up now, Ginny, when I type in Chat GPT, or I bookmarked it so I can use it. But
Right.
Yeah, I think you do have to give them your email, I
Yeah.
think.
So if you search ChatGPT in Google, you'll wind up at introducing ChatGPT. Once you click on that, you just have to click try ChatGPT, and then it's going to ask you, hey, give us your username and email, et cetera, that kind of thing. It's, it's again, I don't love signing up for every single service for the sake of signing up for every single service. I think this one is a neat one to play around with, and I don't think they're really doing anything nefarious with your data. It's mostly just to assure that the computing power they are using, which is vast, is getting utilized by people actually using it, because they don't want to have attacks of inundated information that they didn't need. And then Jean, I see you have your name.
Yes, I do. I'm a lot like Evie. I didn't know until I went to my doctor's yesterday that my sleep apnea, along with my oxygen concentrator at night, he's got it up in his computer. I saw it for the first time ever.
That's great. I mean, it's wild, but it's great,
How I sleep, how long I sleep. Do I have any leaks in my mask? Oh
Yeah.
my.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, honestly, I have one of these little guys on my wrist, which not to that degree, but I wake up and it says, hey, you were in REM for an hour and a half. What's up with that? And it's like, I don't know. It's like the data, like the amount of data we are just generating and then they are interpreting. It's just awe-inspiring,
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I could see this being a senior college course, no pressure, but someday in the future, I'm seeing some heads nodding, Brendan. If you ever have the inclination to come and play with us a little bit more in senior college, I could see that we could have a fun time together. But we're really grateful for you taking the time to offer this conversation today. I think you really helped demystify what it is. And someone wrote in the chat that she already asked Chat GPT to write a funny poem about her husband's TV habits. So I like that. So yeah, just play around with it, and let me know if you have any questions. If you do play around with it, send me an email. Let me know. I'd love to hear how you're all doing. And again, this is sort of what senior college is like. So if you haven't signed up, you want to sign up, because we have great presentations, great classes, interesting topics. And this fall, we have a real wide variety of topics for you to explore, with classes starting right after Labor Day. So check out our website to attend a future event, and I will see you all soon at a future event or in senior college. Thank you, Brendan, for your time. Big round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thanks for setting this up. This was fantastic. It was great meeting you all. Fantastic questions, and hopefully we can talk again in the future.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.